Okay, yeah, we'll give it a couple minutes and then we'll get started. So, yeah, everyone hang tight. If you're watching the
Mhm.
recording, we'll get started in just another minute or two. Let people join in. Yeah, I think we'll get started. As people join in, we'll definitely monitor the chat. But again, if you're joining us virtually and watching the recording, we'll have a great special treat for you at the end. But we'll get started. This is William Howard here with the Mailchimp Partner Development Team. I'm just here to present and help present data integration with Mailchimp with an expert in the field. This is partner Edward Kay, founder and CEO of Tall Projects. And I'll hand it off to him to kind of go over, the ins and outs of how to integrate your data.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for having me, William. Nice to see everyone here. So, as William says, I'm just going to share my screen and we'll get started. So, second. Brilliant. So, hopefully, you can see that's coming through. So, yeah, as William said, I'm Edward Kay or Ed. Um, Started Tool Projects 2014, so a number of years ago. I've been a Mailchimp partner since 2018. But my background is tech, so I'm a software engineer by training. But I have that sort of, I think that's a more valuable sort of intersection of both tech and business. And so what I actually really get excited about, and you might find it a bit weird if I say this, but I'm really interested in the data and making kind of that information work perfectly. So none of this sort of, oh, it kind of works some of the time, but it falls over here and there. It's like if it's working perfectly and it's all 100% aligned, that's what kind of makes me tick. And that's what we're going to be covering today. It's about how you can access the data that you have across your different systems and leverage that into real results. So not just with the tools that Mailchimp provide, but kind of looking a bit wider over your whole sort of set of apps. So what are we going to cover today? So first up, we'll be on connected reporting, which I'll explain in a second. Then we'll talk about bespoke integrations and where they come in play. That's not to downplay sort of out of the box integrations by any stretch, but it's kind of where we can add that extra bit of value. And then for those of you who are make it to the end, there's a special bonus as well. So I'd suggest you hang around for that as well. So connected reporting. Now, most people, I would expect, would use a number of tools in their business. So, yeah, Mailchimp obviously being one of them, but it's unlikely to be the only one. You're likely to augment that with other tools. So a CRM, we might have other ones like e-commerce website, an event booking platform, a membership system, a whole bunch of others. But the point is that those tools work really well on the bit that they work in and their domain. But we all know they need to sort of talk to each other. And when you're looking at wanting to kind of get an understanding of your business and your data, you need to kind of blend the data from all these different tools. Now, SMEs typically handle this with exporting CSV files, wrangling them in Excel, pulling things together that way, which, yeah, is a very useful and practical way of doing it, but it's a one-time hit. Every time you do it, you'd have to restart from scratch. So it's quite expensive over time. There's no compounding of that, save for sort of remembering how you did it last time. But what we can do with connected reporting here is we can be a little bit more intelligent with that. This is where we use something called a process called ETL, or extract, transform, and load, which is where you kind of connect these tools up and suck the data out, and then take the relevant bits you want and shape that into a data warehouse. Data warehouse being essentially a database in the cloud that allows us to process the data as you wish, but crucially we can blend those together and shape different views on that as we wish. This it's not a groundbreaking new concept, but actually it's typically the preserve of much larger sort of enterprise organizations. The tools that you typically use for the ETL process here can kind of land in the order of hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month just to get the tool. And even then, you still need an analyst to actually work out what you're going to do with it, put it into a database, and then build the reports off the top of it, which kind of is out of the scope for many CMEs and SMEs. But that's what I specialize in, and we'll kind of hopefully sort of unlock the value of this concept and this process in a way that it sort of democratizes it so much wider audience can leverage the value of that. And so, as I said a second ago, that data warehouse will then allow us to kind of build in some reports based on those information. So if we go out of here now, and I go to my live demonstration, this here is what I would call a connected report. Now this is built in Google Data Studio, but you can use different ones. Essentially, it's a BI or business intelligence tools. You might see like Power BI, other ones, but I like Data Studio and it works really well. But what's the nexus of this is that it allows you to kind of build the reports that you want. So anyone who kind of uses a tool, be it Mailchimp, be it CRM, I think they'll say, "Oh, we've got a suite of reports, brilliant." A lot of them are really, really valuable, but what you want for a report is going to be different from the next person wants for a report. And similarly, when you have that freedom to build your own reports, you'll often then find, as I do with everyone that I'm working with, you kind of say, "Oh, I really want this report," and you build it, and they go, "Oh, but actually, even better if we had something else." So if we have a look at this just to kind of show you sort of the possibilities. This I'm using just the CRM data is just dummy data. I've generated it with a fake data library that just comes up with anonymous information. Mailchimp data is coming from my own sort of demo account within Mailchimp. So I'm not revealing anything we shouldn't do here. But what this report here is showing me of all of the CRM contacts that we've pulled into our data warehouse, how many of them we've done a view of that, and we've looked to see how many of them where the email address is either missing or is invalid. So you can kind of see there's some clear ones where there's no @ sign, or there's no domain, or there's double @ signs down here. That this in itself is really useful, because then you could use this, and this is a scrollable list, by the way. You could use this to follow up on those data and then work out how you're going to sort of improve the quality of that information in your CRM. Moreover, you can do some useful things. So you could even export this as a CSV if you wanted to go off and tick down them as you go. And if this was going to a real CRM, we could have these linking off to their individual records right from here to really make that process much more efficient. But the key point, as I stress, aside from the sort of the freedom to create those reports that you want, what we're doing here is effectively replicating all of that CSV export, Excel wrangling, and codifying it so that we do it once, we set up the process, and then these data will kind of refresh periodically. Sometimes it's every 24 hours. We can increase the frequency if necessary. But the point is that you do that effort once, you get it right, and then it compounds over time. And that's the real crux, or the real difference between kind of, well, if I just did it myself, how is this any better? But as you'll see here, we can then do some other interesting reports where we blend these data together. So this is where I've looked at it, where I've gone, actually, how do those CRM contacts compare with Mailchimp? Because most businesses, you want all of your contacts to be in your email marketing platform, so you can actually send them the communications. So if we have a look here, we can see in this example that 39% of our CRM contacts are not even in Mailchimp. But what we can do here is we looked on the last report where we had the email is valid. We could say, actually, let's only look at the ones where they've got a valid email, because clearly if we haven't got an email for them that's going to work, they're not going to go into Mailchimp. But even here, we now see that 33% of these contacts are just not in Mailchimp at all. So we could have a look at that and come down here and say, well, these ones just don't match anyone in Mailchimp. 1,729 of them in this fake data set. So then that would be, either a cause for, if we had built an integration, why aren't these people here? Or if we haven't got an integration in place, maybe we just export this list and go and import it straight into our into Mailchimp. Suddenly we've already got those people back in our audience and re-engaging with them. So then you could hopefully kind of see the power of these things to answer those questions that you might want. And it also allows us that with that freedom and flexibility is with Mailchimp, where we've pulled in that data from here, we could sort of graph or chart or show the data that we might want. So here what I've done is a couple of very simple charts using my sort of demo audience of when did people opt in to, so this is specifically opt-in, not actually subscribing. So although as you can see here, the opt-in dates and the subscribe dates are the same for everyone in this audience, which is kind of typical. But we can kind of see that was there a big spike around March? Yes, there was. Why would that be? What would be, did we do something that kind of generated a lot of people there? Similarly, we can see how our audience has grown over time. So as I say, Mailchimp, you can get these reports as well, but we might want to augment it with other data or filter out a certain criteria of people or whatever we want to do. And then down here, we can kind of see some more actionable things of not just a chart, but who's behind those charts. So who are these new subscribers? Who are these people who've recently joined the audience? And then you can click straight through. And as I said earlier, these can then link directly into the record. Here we're going straight into Mailchimp, but we could link directly into your record if it was in a CRM or any of your other systems. If we go back here, some of the other reports that we might want to do are sometimes people will subscribe directly into Mailchimp. Work with a couple of clients who use Mailchimp as if you like a superset of their CRM. It's that first stage where we get people onto the platform, we can start talking with them. They only go into the CRM once they've actually kind of moved down the funnel, they've engaged in some way or so. So how many of those people have we got in Mailchimp and they haven't gone into the CRM? Well, why are we not doing that? Well, we could see who's subscribed there, and maybe that in itself is actually these people. Maybe we look at the subscription date. We could sort by the sign up date, and we could do it the other way around and say, actually, look, these people here, all these people signed up 2000, well, back in March, haven't done anything yet. Maybe we export these and we create then a pasted segment in Mailchimp so we can send something just to these people who've been on the list for a couple of months, haven't bought anything yet. What could we do? Could we offer them a discount? Could we kind of incentivize them in some other way to engage with that by segmenting our list in a way that wouldn't necessarily be particularly evident in terms of, well, I want to find all of those who aren't in my CRM. Would be quite challenging to do that in any other way other than our favorite CSV wrangling. Conversely, maybe we want to see who are the cleaned contacts in Mailchimp. These people have all bounced. What do we want to kind of see, and they're not in the CRM either, so we don't know anything about them. Do we actually want to archive all of these people, get them out of the way, delete them from our audience, forget about them in some way, because just to keep on top of our data and improve that quality? So we've got some time for some Q&A at the end, but hopefully this sort of gives you a flavour and a sort of insight as to what we could potentially do in terms of just pulling those data from different systems and building that kind of custom reporting on a compounding basis as to what you could get from that. and how that would really sort of deliver value in your business. So if we jump back now to presentation, we can go on to the next slide, which is about bespoke integration. So reporting, the connected reporting is often a precursor to a bespoke integration. It helps us validate and bottom out the requirements, kind of do an end-to-end concept saying, as we were saying there, we want to understand who's not in the who's in the CRM and not in Mailchimp, and how do we bring those data across? What data do we need to bring across? And this is where we can kind of then use it to help validate those requirements, develop the specification, and also act as a validation step after it's in action to actually give us that trust that the integration is all working as we expect. Because we kind of build this to say, this is the test and this is how we want it to be. Then we can kind of go back and say, well, is the data flowing as we would expect it to? So if we look at our sort of fictional CRM going into Mailchimp, we don't necessarily always need a bespoke integration. Some off the shelf can be absolutely fine. And I'd always advocate, as a software engineer, write as little software as possible. It's a liability less than not an asset. We want to keep things super, super simple. So if we're using a CRM that's got a really robust and mature integration with Mailchimp, sends everything that we need, perfect, great, go for it. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. However, what you'll find is that a number of people who say, we integrate with Mailchimp, and it's not with Mailchimp, you say, we integrate tool A with tool B. It's often very shallow. It kind of ticks a box on a feature chart. People are cross-comparing with, I'm going to buy this tool, or I'm going to buy that tool. But they don't really kind of scratch under the surface and go, what does it actually need? Because when you realise that, it's not unexpected that your CRM to Mailchimp integration would just be like name and email address. And as we know, to actually segment the data and actually do anything kind of meaningful with it, you need much more than just a name and an email address. We've got our merge fields, we've got their interests or groups, we've got the tags, and you have to work out your own sort of naming conventions and how you want to do that. And what you also don't want is to try and replicate your whole CRM in your email marketing system, because that in itself is just overkill, makes the email marketing tool far too clunky to use. No one really knows what it's going to be. And often it's not, you're still sort of doing these complex workarounds of, actually, it's the segment of who's going to get this mailing is based on this tag, but not that tag, and this interest. It gets very complicated, sort of the logic, and then people get the wrong, it's very easy for people to get the wrong communications, to miss out on communications. It just makes you look unprofessional. So it's not unheard of that those things are often a starter, but then they break down. And that's where bespoke integration can come into play. And that could be driven directly from your CRM if there's an appropriate trigger and all of the data is there. Or, as we saw a minute ago, it could also come from the data warehouse if we want to have a blended set of data from CRM and maybe other tools to actually give the data that we need to map into Mailchimp to enable both your segmentation and perhaps trigger any of the automations and customer journeys that you might want to push people through. Moreover, the bespoke integration can also write data back to the CRM. And this is an example where we have this where in this particular example with this is live data from a client of mine using my own record, where the data comes out of their CRM. We then have to transform that in a meaningful way. So we look at sort of certain dates that they've got, which go through into merge fields in Mailchimp here. We look at what they have engaged with and where they are in the CRM in order to set the groups that we've got. So the contact stages being kind of the effectively a simple funnel for them of lead to customer to former customer. Contact type, this is something else, but the kind of core groups that they'd expect, so the sort of different markets that they serve. But moreover, and this is a training organization, moreover, it's our tags that have all of the really rich data here. And specifically things like, in this case, we have a tag. We developed what we call a naming convention or a nomenclature about how the tags are had applied or indeed removed in Mailchimp. And then we have ones that are around specifically around courses that people have attended. So we know if they're booked onto a course. So we're not going to be then sending them promotional activity around you need to book onto course X if we know they've already booked into course X, because that's just like, do you know me at all? The whole point is we need to know the customer and understand that. Similarly, you can see in this example, we've got one where they've attended it. So we again, if they attended it last week, we don't want to be promoting the one that's next month. But what's clever here is in this one, and this is where the bespoke integration comes in, where we can actually build that business logic in code, is when we look at when those people are updating into Mailchimp, we go, well, when did they last attend that course? Oh, it was actually these courses are annual. This one was over 9 months ago. So then we change the tag from attended to attended aged, and then that allows us to then trigger automations saying, did you know it's over 9 months ago since you last attended course test 2? Now's the time to rebook on. Here's this, or we can use it in other segments. So you can see we've got a very simple set of tags on here, but they're very rich in terms of what they enable that organization to do and how they can then truly leverage the power of their email marketing tool, and in this case, Mailchimp. If we look back at this one as well, I also said it can report back to the CRM, so we can kind of cover off sort of extra data and extra value where people are not. So in this case, people where we try to sync those contacts over to Mailchimp, but it fails. Mailchimp gives us an error. And you can see most of these are contacts permanently deleted and can't be re-imported. So that's people who traditionally, or the most likely, they've been on the list. They'll have unsubscribed probably a long time ago, because before we kind of really started working with them and they weren't being so sort of careful with their marketing, maybe they were sending them information that was irrelevant to them. It was too frequent. They weren't segmenting effectively or efficiently. Therefore, people were getting annoyed with it and just going, I've had enough, and they've unsubscribed. But now we know who those people are. We can this report here is specifically just showing those people who've got those sync errors. But if we've got what we've also got for them is another report. So when they're running an event, as I say, this training course, they can see who are the attendees, and with that, which of those attendees have got a sync error next to them. And it might be that they've been deleted. It might be that there's an error in their email address or some other sort of field. But the key point is, and this kind of going back to the title of this talk, about really sort of getting that real value from your data and using it for action and results, is that you are then there either on the call or in the room with the people who and maybe there's only 20 or so people on that call. You know that 3 of them aren't on your mailing list, and you've got it right there in front of you. You can then say either to them, oh, by the way, I've noticed you're not on here, or indeed just in a more general way, you can share the Mailchimp link to where they can re-sign up, or indeed say, if you want to, I can set that up. Then Mailchimp would send them the resubscription email. We could fill in the form on their behalf. You can just say, just send that. We'll get everything back on play. So you can use the data you've already worked hard to gather and gain. You can then improve the quality and get your sort of the number of people you can communicate with back up, and maximize that with very minimal effort once you've got this system in place. So I've talked a lot. There's probably a lot there to digest. But if we look at sort of bringing it all together, so we've shown how in this example, we've done Mailchimp and CRM into a single data warehouse, and how we've used that to power some dashboards and reports. We've also talked about sort of integrations, which often are powered by the data that we have in the data warehouse, or potentially from those different tools. This is what it enables us to do. Extra power comes because it's not just limited to to certain tools. The point with the data warehouse and this reporting is we can ingest those data from any of these different tools that you might be using. And it doesn't even have to be a tool. It could be something like a Google spreadsheet. We can pull all of that in, and then we can use that to blend and merge and develop those the data, shape it across all of those different tools in the ways that make sense for you as a business. And the the next frontier on this is not just using the data warehouse as a sort of read-only concept this way. The emergent field is using this as context for AI. And that doesn't mean, well, we'll just share it with one of the big sort of AI LLMs. What it means is we use that for context in our own AI. So there's a concept called conversational analytics. So you could actually, rather than building, as well as sort of building a report where we want a nice visualization of this or that, if you're just kind of going, I'm going to a conference in New York next month. Who am I? Who should I meet with while we're there? And then we could go, well, what would be important? Would it be kind of age of account? Would it be sort of the amount they spend with you? Would it be some people who maybe are drifting, or maybe they're leads who just need to be pulled over? The AI is really good at doing that. But if you can then power that with the context of your own blended data from all of these different tools in a way that makes sense, you can really kind of start to see how this would be kind of, ultimately quite a superpower for you in your business to really sort of, understand that data that you've got and use it to drive real action and meaningful results. And this and everything here is what I specialize in. So, as I said at the top, before we get to the Q&A, there's a special bonus for you who have been through this webinar and have heard me sort of explain what this is. And I'll cover that on the next slide. But before we get to that, here are my contact details. I'm very happy, always happy to talk about sort of data. This kind of thing always gets me pretty excited. And yeah, it's the bit that really sort of ticks my boxes. And but what, not just about the information, but actually seeing the impacts and how that transforms your business and your results, and really sort of starting to have that sort of compounding effect. So when we're doing work, it's not just a linear, we're progressing here, we get that sort of exponential compounding. Oh, we've built this and now that, and then we've integrated this, and we can really start to see those really transformational results. So for you, I'm willing to do a free 30-minute data consultation. So it can be whatever we want to talk about with the data. Where are you stuck? What tools should you use? How should you integrate them? What's often the case of, oh, we've got this and it's not really working. How do we fix it? How do we, what can we do? And hopefully it'll give you something where you can then move forward. Whether that's appropriate that I help you with that, brilliant if there is, but it's not here as a sales pitch as such. It's a let's listen to what you've got to say and see if there's a fit. So if that's of interest, talkprojects.co.uk/call, send you a link to my calendar. You can book it straight in there. Time, date suits you. QR code if you want to scan it on your phone for quick and easy access to it. So I'll leave this slide up for the next few minutes. Just a quick note that those calls will be booking from June onwards. So I've got a few days off next week. But yeah, I think that's kind of hopefully giving you a good insight as to what we can kind of do. And then we'll see if there's any Q&A. So William, I've just had a look in the chat. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, Erica did join us, so thanks for joining, Erica. If you have any questions, I'd love to dive into it. There was a good portion, I think, in the beginning where I don't know when you had joined, but we kind of went through a demo of, where how to work some of the data in Mailchimp and like what it means, and like kind of examples of where you can get some of some of your audience members, like through any events or networking and things like that. So you can kind of put them in your CRM and integrate them with Mailchimp and kind of do a lot of various cool things with it. So if you do have questions on that, Edward's your guy. If you do have questions outside of that, please let us know. No pressure either way. Edward's QR code is there for any kind of one-on-one consultation that you may want. No? Okay. Well, thanks for joining. I think yeah, we'll definitely end this. We'll ship out the recording. And thanks so much, Edward. This is great. Oh, she just typed something. There we go. I've uploaded my contacts. I have 292. I'm actively running campaigns. Okay, this is awesome. Any concerns or questions with that? Now that you've kind of run some campaigns, I can take you off mute if you want. Just let me know. Cool. Okay. Here you are. I'm going to join. Okay, you can now, let's see, ask to unmute. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I think you can talk. Yeah, there you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey,
Oh,
Erica.
thank you so much. Hi, Edward. I have I love Mailchimp. I was using Mailchimp before I got in this ideas program. However, the landing pages give me trouble. I had uploaded my contacts. I had over 300. I'm like at 292, which I'm fine with because I'm flushing out folks that are not founders or senior executives. But man, the landing pages, now that I have access to so many, I have a hard time when I'm trying to create them with the blocks, adding the blocks, especially if I pick one that's already formatted. I did integrate it with my Canva. That has helped to bring more images in, but it's not really helping me with my layout.
I think I can kind of point you in the right direction there, Erica. So unless Edward, unless you kind of have some experience with that, I know it's really not your realm of expertise,
I was
but
going to say I'm aware of it, and I know how people
yeah.
do it. But yeah, my focus is yeah much more on the data and the integration side of things than the building of campaigns and landing pages.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Then yeah, let me, Erica, how about you drop your email in the chat and I'll email you and connect you with somebody that can help with more of the design stuff.
Because
Cool,
I
appreciate
just
it.
had I took the cheat way. So I needed to create a landing page like right away. And I was spending so much time having problems. So I took one of the plain generation lead landing pages and I just uploaded my image and used the sign up form to get people to sign up for the workshop. But I really, really do need to get better at creating the landing page because I need one for my membership community. And I really need to get that up and running as soon as possible, that landing page.
Okay, I'll email you right now and put some time on my calendar and we can go through that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
And Edward, thank you for the integration. I caught the last part of it. Now I need to go in and play with those that haven't really done anything, which is a lot of people. They open things, they click things, and I'm trying to get them to convert.
Yeah, and that's actually where yeah the actual marketing side of stuff is where you can pretty much do what you really need to do in Mailchimp. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be here to set us up. Oh, you've got to do a ton of integration. If you're running though, essentially you mentioned you're doing a membership program. A whole bunch of my clients are membership, typically associations. So there's some
Mm-hmm.
B2B, B2C memberships. Um, and that brings with it, it's quite an interesting one because it's less on the sort of the sales process like an e-commerce approach. It's much more on the relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not just one transaction. You've got to get people through renewals. You've got to get them through sort of keep them engaged. And actually, the data side of things that we were looking at earlier, some of those reports that we can do. Um, Unfortunately, I can't show you now because they've got sort of real people's data in. But we've got so if we had a look back at if I just jump out of this and we go back into here um, on um, on some of my other clients, we've got these as so you can see we've kind of grouped these reports here as CRM and Mailchimp. We've got other ones we've got membership, and so we've got sort of annual summaries of sort of what's the churn rate, what's the retention rate, what's the churn rate of what we call nursery members, so people who get to their first renewal and then drop off, and yeah, they're quite complicated bits of um, kind of stats to kind of calculate each time. Yeah, they all
Mm-hmm.
make sense, but it's the kind of thing that if someone says, "What are our annual figures?" Oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I've got to export all this stuff, run some things, pivot this, do that, faff around in Excel. Build all this in here. You do it once, pull that data in, and you can kind of see that over time, and along with any other sort of engagement signals that you might have, which yeah, again could be opens and clicks, it could be attending events, it could be purchasing anything from the store, all this kind of good stuff. But yeah, membership is really quite an interesting sector to kind of pull some data from and get those dashboards up and running.
Right. And for me, I'm on the front end because before this program, I was using Mailchimp, but not consistently. So I was using more of Square. And
Hmm.
so that's why I want to have the landing page for my membership community. So it's something that is there forever, right? And for relationship building, I totally agree with you. I started in January. I started a weekly newsletter for my founders. I My target audience is revenue generating founders and senior executives, and my expertise is helping them fix their gaps in their missions, their initiatives. That is causing execution not to go as well. And so I have a Sunday note that goes out for founders, and I have a midweek reflection. It's theme based every week. I also drive it even higher up to national initiatives. Like, for example, this month is National Stress Awareness Month. I also have a master's in public health. So, public health is always on my mind, regardless of what I'm doing. And so, I've been talking to founders about stress in their business, holding things, not having structures, not being aligned, and those sort of things I've been talking about with them this month. So I'm doing that piece to build relationship with my audience. I notice I can read, I can understand the campaign data that it gives me from the weekly runs, but I don't understand like the sheet you just showed me. Like what would I do with that? Because no one has signed up for these things because they are new on this platform and I'm trying to turn them.
Yeah. So don't get too hung up on what these reports that I'm sort of sharing at the moment. They're, as you can see here, it's my sort of demo account just to kind of give you an idea of what we want to do. The kind of core concept is actually, if we were ever going to build these reports, that's something that I would work with clients on to kind of say, what are the things that you're trying to do, as you were just saying, kind of get people off from the list to then take action. So if they were, um, if they were booking on an event with you and you had an event ticketing platform, that's where we'd pull those data in and we could say, okay, so who's attending those events? Where are they coming through? And blending that with perhaps the data we've got from Mailchimp around sort of, are the people who are on booking the events, are they in your marketing audience? Oh, actually, no, they're not. You know, these people here were, CRM contacts versus Mailchimp. You could imagine that event booking contacts versus Mailchimp. How many of them are not there, or how many of them are unsubscribed? That's what we'd kind of look at it. Yeah, 292. You can kind of do that quite quickly in a spreadsheet. Push that up 2,920 or so. It gets a little bit more complicated, and you still don't have that as the compounding bit. But I would suggest that, yeah, yeah, this is where this kind of concept comes in, is actually where you want to like consider the whole of your business, not just the part that Mailchimp serves.
Right. I can't wait till I have that problem.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think at this point you started. You said you're starting in January, I think, and yeah, early days. Yeah, you don't want to don't yeah, you don't want to sort of run before you can walk. Get the sort of get the revenue in, get the people doing it. There's a concept I really like, something called "fake it till you make it," which is
Hmm.
kind of just you can kind of research it, but essentially it's a don't build all of this foundational and big structures around things until you've proven it. So much as I was saying around we can build bespoke integrations, we don't do that until we've actually kind of proven that there's a need to move data between them and there's a misalignment on what we want to kind of do. But when your size of audience, where you are in the on your journey, um, try lots of different things, see which bits work, keep experimenting, don't be afraid to fail, do those sort of bits, and then but do it in a methodical and a sort of scientific way and kind of go, I did this, this was the result, and then you've got the data, which will then kind of go, we'll do more of that and less of that.
Thank you, William. I just got your email.
Awesome. Great. Perfect. This has been a great conversation. I'm glad. Thanks for joining, Erica. It's been great. And then you and I can chat one-on-one later on. But Edward, thanks so much. This has been amazing. Great presentation. The recording will be sent out. And yeah, next week we have our last idea session. So Erica, join it. And let us know, if you're planning to attend. Love to have you back. And then spread the word. Tell other people that we're still here and still doing this. So thanks again.
Next week's the last
Brilliant.
session.
For we're last one we're having for partners. I think you're going to continue to have it, but yeah, we're just the last one for the partners. So yeah.
So are all of these in our hub? Because I was looking for Simon. I didn't
You
see
didn't
them.
see him. Yeah, I'll talk to you one-on-one about that. So yeah, we'll chat.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great one.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All the best.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.